College fantasy football rankings. We are back at it here, and we are going in depth. In our first set of rankings episodes, we only covered the Power Four. We wanted to get you ready for those big tournaments. The Tadpole Bowl is currently drafting, Underdog. We've been firing up. We already did one live draft of that. So we've got you ready for that. Now we want to make sure you're ready for your full seasonal drafts here. So we're going to include our rankings with the non-Power 4 teams. So the group of 5 guys here. We have our top 30 quarterbacks. As we go through, we're going to talk about each player, but we're going to give a particular emphasis on either guys that are in the group of 5 or just guys that we otherwise haven't talked about through our rankings. So if you've watched all of our rankings episodes, you're going to get a lot more info. If this is the first time you're tuning in, make sure to subscribe. We appreciate you coming along for the ride. But John, with that being said, let's jump right into it here. Our quarterback 30 is Bryson Barnes out of Utah State. And we're going to spend some time right off the bat. This is a guy I want to get into because he's got a great rushing floor that comes with his game.
Absolutely. And Matt, last year he had 530 yards rushing and 5 touchdowns. Now, as a passer, we have a little less, enjoyment there. His numbers are 856 yards, but he did throw 12 touchdowns on limited throws. He only threw 126 passes. So if Bryson Barnes can take a step forward with his arm, you could have a really, really interesting fantasy football quarterback. I'm not as high on him as others, but we have him combined as number 30 in our rankings. So there's clearly value to Bryson Barnes.
Yeah, what's great about the way that we're doing the rankings this time is that we're showing both of our rankings. So you got an idea of maybe I'm a little bit higher on them, maybe John's a little bit lower on them. And for me, Bryson Barnes, I give him just a little bit of edge. I love leaning into the Russian quarterbacks, right? Especially playing in the Mountain West. We don't have the best proof of concept passing wise, but definitely somebody, once you get around QB 30, right, you should be shooting for upside. And so that's where I like to be targeting Bryson Barnes. By the way, if you want to see our full rankings for our full quarterback rankings, we go to 75. Running back, wide receiver, tight end rankings. All of that is available at patreon.com/rookiebigboard. The link to join is in the episode description. For just $5, you get our full college fantasy football rankings in addition to Devy, Dynasty, rookie rankings, scouting reports, personalized advice in the Rookie Big Board Discord. Lots of good stuff going on there. All right, John, 29. We've talked about Julian Sayin a decent amount this offseason, but this isn't something that, you're leaning into scheme. You're leaning into opportunity. I've been taking Julian Sayin. He's been around 10, 11, 12 in my drafts. Worthwhile dart throw for me in that range.
Oh, absolutely. I've gotten way more Julian Sayin than I thought I would.
Yeah.
Because there's a 4th quarterback in a best ball. And I actually took him in the Tadfish Bowl draft. I got him as my 2nd quarterback based strictly on upside, Matt.
Yeah. Next up here, we have Brendan Sorsby. Not a group of 5 player, but somebody who I think is worth talking about there. He's a Big 12 quarterback, which means defense won't be a problem. Experienced veteran returner. He's been very efficient for Cincinnati over the last couple of years. Are you expecting that final step forward to be, a real CFF impact player?
Absolutely. And he's definitely one of the players that there's value on. If you've been listening to us, the quarterback class is deep in college fantasy football, Matt. And Sorsby originally went to Indiana, but he transferred out when Curt Cignetti took over the program. And last year he ended up playing for Cincinnati. And if you look deeper at him, he played much better than I think people believe. He had over 2,800 yards passing, 18 touchdowns. Okay, those aren't spectacular, but dig deeper. We love running quarterback. Sorsby had 445 yards rushing, 9 touchdowns. Matt, the young man is a dynamic dual threat quarterback. If he's your 3rd and possibly 4th quarterback, now I expect him to rise a little bit, but he's still a tremendous value and is being overlooked.
Absolutely. Next up here, we have DJ Lagway, who we have definitely discussed, but I think it's worth pointing out I posted the updated rankings on Patreon today. I shared them in the Discord. John, within a minute, the first comment was like, you are too low on DJ Lagway. Not you, me. You have him higher than I do. So I think with Lagway, it's a conversation of talent versus scheme, right? You're leaning more into the talent, a good young wide receiver core. I'm a little scared of the scheme, but I think that Lagway saying, that's kind of the same value point with those two guys.
Yeah, and to me, he's been such the value, Matt. I know people are worried about the shoulder injury, but I
Yeah,
listen to what the coaching staff tells me. They didn't bring anyone in, Matt.
true.
And there have been reports out of Florida, Gainesville now, that they expect him to be happy or to be healthy and be able to play. So I do think he's going to go up in ADP, but he's an unbelievable fourth or fifth quarterback.
I'll tell you what, John, you know who they did bring in as a transfer this offseason?
Who?
Harrison Bailey.
Oh, like I said.
Like you said, exactly. All right, next up here is Jackson Arnold out of Auburn. We saw the best of Jackson Arnold at the end of the 2023 season. It fell off the rails at Oklahoma. He's got the scheme. He's got the play calling. He's got the pass catchers. So there's no proof of concept really with Jackson Arnold, but I've definitely been drafting him, and I'm willing to go into, if you're thinking of a league winner, John, how do you get those league winners? You got to lean into some volatility.
Without question. And I have a ton of Jackson Arnold because these young men were available late in drafts, and I'm banking on talent. And Hugh Freeze has been good. And like you mentioned, the wide receiver room is loaded at Auburn. So I like the value on Jackson Arnold.
All right, last guy here in this first range is Marcel Reed, who we have discussed a pretty good bit this offseason, but we're leaning into the mobility, right? We're leaning into that dual threat skill set.
He's unbelievably perfect in best ball. I think he's going to have 30-point games, but unfortunately, he might have 11 points the next week. But I do love Marcel Reed. If he hits, Matt, he is a league-winning type of quarterback. What I like about this range, 25 to 30, any one of these young men could win you a fantasy championship if they hit their ceiling this year.
Yeah, I love that. That's going to be our theme for this episode, right? We're looking for league winners. Of course, those guys you're drafting in the first and second round, they're going to help you win championships. But you need 3 quarterbacks. You need 4 quarterbacks deep in a CFF league, right, to really win the championship. Buys week, injuries, so much piles up. And that's why I'm drafting a lot of Byron Brown. And I get it. It looked bad. There was clearly an injury last season. But John, this was a guy, he was a top 6 pick last year. He was a first-round super flex pick in college fantasy football. And I should know, I drafted a ton of him. I got burned, but I'm willing to go back to the well.
I definitely got burned on Byron Brown. And Matt, if anyone who follows college football knows, injury reports are harder sometimes than they are out in New England when Belichick was in charge of the Patriots. And what has been uncovered in this offseason is Byron Brown got injured. And when he was on the field, he was not playing as well. I mean, he was just poor, let's just say it. And from a fantasy standpoint, he torpedoed many seasons, especially in best ball leagues, in which I had him many a time. But reports are positive that he's healthy right now, Matt. And when you're talking about a young man with over 3,200 yards passing, 800 yards rushing 2 years ago, 11 touchdowns on the ground, and 26 in the air, Matt, the ceiling is there if he's healthy, and everything looks positive right now. He's worth watching in training camp, but I'll lean into the ceiling. I agree with you. He's a tremendous value, and we were paying first-round pick last year for him.
Absolutely. Next up here is Eli Holstein. We've talked about him as a sleeper. He was really the tale of 2 quarterbacks. You take the first half of last season with Pitt, he looked fantastic. You look at the second half, again, the reports coming out, injury affected him. The entire offense really was worn down at the end of last season. So when you're looking for an edge, maybe looking at the why, right? Why did that performance drop off last season? And you can't project injuries. So if we get a full healthy season of Eli Holstein, in the late 20s, that's not bad.
And Matt, you don't even have to draft them that high. Sometimes I have seen him last. Now we're in big leagues with 30 rounds, best ball. So I understand that. But I've seen him last till round 21. Matt, if he's the 40th quarterback off the board, it just becomes an automatic smash for me. The ceiling is there. Yes, there's risk, but I think you got to lean into it at a certain point.
One guy out of the group of 5 who I really like is Tucker Gleason out of Toledo. You have 31 combined touchdowns last season for him. You have over 3,000 combined yards, 360 yards on the ground, 7 touchdowns on the ground. Not only do I just love the Maction, the MAC schedule, you have Toledo, who is generally the best team, if not easily top tier in the MAC. So you've got a real opportunity to tear up defenses. I've been getting the Gleason Vander Ross stack pretty consistently this offseason. So that's somebody here who I have a bit higher than you.
No question, and Matt, I don't disagree. I just think in general, there's a little bit risk, but I do like him. I mean, I have him as a number 29. You have him 18, so you're definitely more bullish. But isn't he the reason why we play college fantasy football, to watch games like Toledo against Ohio in the MAC? And he's that type of quarterback who can smash.
All right, 21, we are much more in line with our ranking. That's Caton Hauser out of East Carolina. John, in addition to being a good college fantasy football player, I got to tell you, I was playing East Carolina against East Carolina in college football 26, and he was lighting me up, man. I got to see that big arm in real action.
Hey, he's got a really big arm, and I do, if my memory serves me, he originally signed with Michigan State, right? So he's a transfer that went from the Power 4 school to the G5, which I really like at the college level, right? Because you have the player with the big arm and usually with the athleticism, and they're going down a level in competition. And you might be playing him and he's smashing, but Matt, he smashed on the field last year. When you look at games against Temple, Army, Florida Atlantic, he was unbelievable in those games. And let me see here, final 7. Yep, in the final 7 games of the year, he had over 20 fantasy points in each game, including a high against Florida Atlantic of 55, basically. I like Caton Hauser. I think he's an easy smash in CFF.
All right, Austin Simmons, you have the scheme. You have that Lane Kiffin offense. He's got a little bit of that mobility, right, that really helped Jackson Dart be a CFF impact guy. Lacks experience, big performance in the bowl game. He's been getting good feedback from the Ole Miss beat this offseason.
Yeah, you can't miss the beat writers' love of Austin Simmons. I am banking on, and you like him also, on Lane Kiffin in that old Rebels offense. Yes, he's young. And, Matt, he was also a pitcher in high school. He's got the arm, everyone. We go into much more detail on the Power 4 program, but I do like the Rebels quarterback.
Absolutely. And Sam Levitt, I've watched the tape. I logged the scouting report on Sam Levitt, potential day 2, potential round 1 guy in 2026.
I think so, my friend. I do.
I compared him. I watched his game. I see like 80% Baker Mayfield in his game. He's got a little bit of that, mobility, a little bit of that gunslinger, college Baker Mayfield. So it's a really, I can see it there with Sam Levitt. And do you know what I love when I'm playing college fantasy football, John? I love playing Big 12 secondaries. That's a real recipe for success here.
Isn't he a little bigger than Baker Mayfield too in size? I think he's
a little bit. Yeah.
But
I think he's like 6'1.5". I mean, he's not huge. Yeah.
Yeah. He's a bigger Baker Mayfield, I think, when I studied him. Yes.
All right. Let's get into our 18 through 13 here. Again, leaning into this concept of league winning quarterbacks. This is where I think you're going to get maybe a little bit more consensus behind it, but you want to make sure you're picking the right guy out of this group. And we're going to start here with our 18th ranked player. That's Josh Hoover out of TCU. You're giving him the love, John. I still don't think consensus is there on Josh Hoover.
No, I definitely am ahead of consensus on it. But I believe in TCU. They seem to be kind of like an every year program. They're not a blue blood. So, what do you have to do at TCU? It takes you a while to build the upperclassmen. So, they take steps backwards when they're playing a lot of sophomores or inexperienced players. I think this is year for the Horned Frogs to win between 9 and 10 games. I really like Josh Hoover at the helm of this offense.
Yeah, and it has to be him. The running game's
Yes, I
really
mean,
not there for TCU this year. So
yeah,
we're talking volume for sure. Next up
absolutely.
here, we have Devin Dampier, who I'd say, John, we're actually probably a little bit below industry consensus on Devin Dampier. And for me personally, it's nothing against him. There's just some really good group of 5 options that I like above him.
Absolutely. And I like the player. I dislike the ADP.
Yeah.
I don't, in my opinion, it doesn't reflect the risk. He's moving up in competition. And I don't know how he's going to clearly excel at the next level. There's risk there, but I do like the player. And it's an upgrade for the Utes. But is he going to have over 1,000 rushing yards again?
Right. That's a hard mark to hit, but I don't know. Maybe Kevin Jennings will get there for SMU this season, right? And I don't know. Maybe I'm just pulling him too far down in the ranks, but he's a top 11 guy for you.
Yeah, I'm clearly higher than everyone else on Kevin Jennings. I get it. I was very impressed watching the Mustangs last year. I thought he played excellent football. I know it's relying on a passing quarterback, but he's sneaky mobile. He might only get 300 yards rushing, but I'll take that if he gets 5 or 6 touchdowns. Matt, I like the Mustangs. I think they're going to be good.
Next up here, this is a group of 5 special with
Yes.
Parker Navarro. This is a really, I mean, you gotta decide what you want when you're drafting Parker Navarro. 1,000 rushing yards and 18 rushing touchdowns for the quarterback last year. 13 passing touchdowns, 11 interceptions, right? So maybe you know your league settings a little bit, right? If it's a 4-point per passing touchdown
Oh,
league, maybe you're a little bit more interested in Parker Navarro. If it's a league that maybe doesn't penalize you so much on the interceptions, maybe you like Parker Navarro a little bit more. But I have to say, John, I do think this is a guy who, because of that rushing upside, I mean, he could really smash at this ADP.
Oh, there's no question if he stays on the field and he gets 1,000 yards rushing again, you are going to absolutely love him. However, my ranking reflects the risk involved. Having played this game for so long, Matt, the G5 uncertainty, and what I mean by that is the offensive line, the change sometimes in coaching staff, the change on the defensive side of the football. Sometimes these rushing quarterbacks, the team around them isn't as solid, and we don't necessarily know it right away. I've just seen too many of these guys take a step backwards. So I'm reflecting the risk in my ranking, but his ceiling is clearly way up there, Matt.
Fantastic. Good insight there, John. Next up here, we have Caden Veltkamp. So Veltkamp was at Western Kentucky last year. Zach Kitley gets hired at Florida Atlantic. Veltkamp comes over with him. We know that the Zach Kitley offense is just run and shoot, right? I mean, we are throwing the ball around a ton. Veltkamp last year threw the ball 389 times. He was over 3,000 passing yards, and he did also have 7 rushing touchdowns. He's not a mobile guy, 6'6", but he had the rushing touchdown. So you put that in the new FAU offense. You got Messier there as the wide receiver, kind of a big X guy to rely on. You know, we're cooking with gas here.
Oh, no question. And we both of them have him at 13. Now, there's a lot of people, Matt. I see him going off the board as early as quarterback 6 or 7 sometimes. I'm not as bullish because I wonder about the team. Florida Atlantic was not very good last year. Now, that gives you opportunity as a player to get on the field, but also it might take the new coach a year or 2 to get his kind of personnel out there and to upgrade the entire roster. So we have them a little lower than most because I think there's more uncertainty at Florida Atlantic. Hey, I love the Kitley system. I like Veltkamp very much, but do we know for a fact that he's going to turn this offense around in one season? I mean, that's a lot of risk as the sixth quarterback off the board.
That's very fair. Next up here is Colton Joseph, and I'm pushing him up our rankings a little bit. I'm leaning into what we saw there from the freshman last season. So in his first year at ODU, he ran the ball 647 rushing yards on 114 carries, 11 rushing touchdowns, right? So we're kind of talking like how we got excited about Parker Navarro. But Joseph, 11-5 touchdown interception ratio, low completion percentage. So I'm leaning in. This is really an upside pick and an upside ranking, that year 2 jump, because if he does take that jump, he could be a top 5 producer. The one thing, oh no, go ahead.
No. I was going to say absolutely, Matt. You're right on that.
Yeah. So the one thing I will say, it's not the easiest schedule. Not what you want from ODU, right?
No.
You are going to have Indiana. You are going to have Virginia Tech. You get Liberty. I'm not worried about the defense there. So, other than that, you get a Sun Belt schedule. So, maybe just keeping in mind the weeks 1 and 3, you might want to have not even another option, but just be realistic about it.
Yeah. And I've seen these G5 quarterbacks go against better programs, especially the running quarterbacks, Matt. And every week is so valuable. Sometimes it's hard to have a 13-point effort from a quarterback in week 1. Do I like Colton Joseph? Yes, absolutely. But you are going to see a theme in my rankings. In general, the G5, the turnover is greater and the risk is a little greater. I tend to rank higher a player at a Power 4 program who's starting for the second or third year, because there's just a little bit more consistency, unless you get a coaching staff wiped out, right? Sometimes that happens. But the throwing concerns me with Colton Joseph. Under 60% completion percent. Now it's just like 59.8. But that is a problem, only because a coach can get frustrated if he has a poor day passing. So I'm a little bit concerned, but hey, he's definitely a well worth playing and drafting. It just depends, where do you want to draft him?
All right, let's get into our top half here. Number 12 is Micah Alejado, and we've talked about him in our fade episode, so we're not going to go into details about it. Check it out. John gave plenty of reasons to be fading at ADP there, the Hawaii quarterback. But I do want to talk about Owen McCown. I don't feel like we've given him enough attention, enough airtime this offseason. Dual threat guy, really impressed at UTSA last season. If we're talking about a guy who could take a big step this year, I think McCown has to be probably our top group of 5 quarterback candidate to take that next step.
He's definitely mine. If I've been saying here I'm a little lower on the others, but man, I think Owen McCown is a special quarterback. And I'm just talking college. I'm looking at Devy. I don't have him as a Devy ranked quarterback.
I think there's a little bit of day 3 chatter with McCown. There's a shot. Maybe it's the name. Maybe it's that. But hey.
So I'm looking at him from a college perspective. I believe in the coaching staff, Jeff Traylor at UTSA. He has some really nice weapons at the wide receiver position. I like his tight ends. Owen Thomas, I think, is the best of the 3, but they rotate those tight ends. Owen McCown is a dual threat guy. He's been my biggest value, while everyone else has been drafting Parker and they've been drafting the other players we're talking about. I've been getting McCown. Now that gap seems to be narrowing in among these players, but McCown is my high. I think he might, of the guys rising, the highest G5 quarterback I like.
Yeah, we've got one more G5 quarterback a bit higher. We'll get into him. Don't worry. At 10, he's not a G5 guy, but we've talked a little bit about Sawyer Robertson, but I know, John, you are even more excited than me on him, but I'm excited about Robertson. I'm excited about this Baylor offense in general in terms of fantasy football this year.
Yeah, I'm going to live or die with the Baylor offense. I got a feeling it might be one of those make or break. Like, does Love know what he's talking about or not? Because I got a lot of Sawyer Robertson. I got a lot of Bryson Washington. We'll talk about a receiver who I like, who comes at a very nice value. Hey, the eyeball test when I was watching Baylor down the stretch, I was really impressed with this offense. Even against LSU. Now, LSU's defense isn't what it used to be, so I understand that. But it is still an SEC defense. Brian Kelly wants to win games, and Baylor basically smacked them around in that game. Sawyer Robertson had 445 yards passing against Baylor or LSU. They wanted to shut down the running game. He threw for 4 touchdowns. Matt, to close out the season, he ended up throwing for 755 yards and 10 touchdowns in the last 2 games. He also has a little rushing upside. He had 230 yards rushing with 4 touchdowns. That's not, but if he gets 300 yards rushing with 5 or 6 touchdowns, I'm totally in. Matt, I'm all in on Sawyer Robertson. He's going to be one of my make or break players.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Demon Williams, another guy that we went into on our Fade at Cost episode. So again, we'll direct you over there. You'll get way more in-depth analysis on it. But John Mateer, this is a guy that I feel like I'm a little bit low on compared to industry consensus. I just think we're assuming too many steps with Mateer, right? I think we're assuming that Oklahoma wants to throw the ball. First, they have a great set of running backs, right? I think we're assuming that you just step up from whoever Washington State played last season to the SEC and pick things right back up. You know, you assume chemistry. I know Deion Burks is back, but is the wide receiver core really there? So, you know, I still have him ranked 11. He's still high, but consensus is probably more like 6 or 7 or 5.
He's above me in consensus, I would say. And he's been my most difficult evaluation this offseason, Matt. However, he's probably going to put up numbers. Remember, he was the #1 fantasy quarterback last year. He was unbelievable,
Yeah.
Matt.
Oh, yeah.
I don't see him replicating those numbers. I have him at 8 because I think I'm willing to draft him on ceiling, especially in a tournament setting. But that's why I have him at 8. But I'll tell you, I think I only have Mateer in 1 league so far. I don't want to pay the freight for John Mateer.
Very fair. I do want to pay for Haynes King.
Oh, yeah.
I've been drafting a lot of Haynes King, and I got to tell you, John, so I went on, I'm doing my summer scouting reports, which again, available to the Rookie Big Board patrons. This year, the scouting reports have trait by trait breakdown. So it's 20 traits on every single player. And, I flip it on to watch Eric Singleton Jr., wide receiver. He's at Auburn now, but he was at Georgia Tech last year. And I just say to myself, well, I'm watching Eric Singleton Jr. I might as well make the profile for Haynes King so I could put some notes in there. First ball he throws, John, I was like, that was a mistake. It's like, for NFL purposes, it's not happening. But from college purposes, I mean, this guy is just perfect, right?
Oh, there's no question. He is the kind of college quarterback that I love. Basically, you're looking at such a high floor, Matt, with a great ceiling if he hits on everything. The experience is there. The games played are there. And it's funny looking back. Everyone was concerned about his game against Georgia in the playoffs, Matt. He just went out and scored 53 fantasy points. So don't get too overwhelmed with schedule. You don't know what's going to happen in November. I love Haynes King. I think we're a little bit higher on him than consensus out there.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And I'm comfortable being there. Let's get into our top 6 here. And as you can imagine, you get into the top 6, not a lot of group of 5 representation, but I want to start by talking about Garrett Nussmeier out of LSU. Obviously a name everybody knows, but you do have to balance, all right, what's a good Devy player? What's a good NFL draft prospect versus who's going to perform for college fantasy football? And despite the tough SEC schedule, John, you're not worried about Garrett Nussmeier.
No, and my rankings are based on 6-point passing touchdowns because in the Kings Classic, in the Tadpole League, and in the
Yeah.
majority of big leagues that I play in, best ball leagues, it's 6-point passing touchdowns to balance out. We originally implemented it to balance out the Mike Leach offense with the Baylor style Robert Griffin Jr. running quarterbacks.
Veer and
So
shoot.
it gives
Yeah.
it a little more, yeah, it gives a little more balance in college football. But I do like Garrett Nussmeier. Matt, in 6-point passing touchdown leagues, I think he's going to have a boatload of games with 4 touchdown passes. That's 24 points right away. I like Caden Durham, but Matt, is he really a volume hog who's going to get 250 carries? I think he's an explosive playmaker. I think he's an efficiency back. He's a pass catching back. I think they're going to have to throw the ball. He might throw the ball 550 to 600 times. So I'm banking on volume with Garrett Nussmeier. And I have a lot of Garrett Nussmeier because I love him in the second round, especially
Yeah.
late in this early third. I almost have to take him.
I mean, in what I love about Garrett Nussmeier is you've got Nick Anderson, you've got Aaron Anderson, you've got a very good wide receiver who's slipping my mind right now, Barry and Brown.
Yes,
Right.
yes,
You got Trades Green. You have so many targets, right?
yes.
The really good playmakers. And that just helps.
I know.
The next guy up, John, hey, listen, we don't sit here and just toot our own horn all the time, but you could go back and watch. Blake Horvath is the cover of, I think, our week 2 waiver wire episode last year. If not week 1, it was week 1 or week 2. It was him and Nick Nash. I'm getting the weeks confused. 2 good picks.
Yes.
We told you, go out and get Blake Horvath. Navy, they modernized their offense slightly last year. It's still, it's still a triple option, but it's got a little bit more versatility to it. And Horvath coming back for another year, oh man, I cannot get enough exposure to him. 17 rushing touchdowns, 1,200 rushing yards. But again, it's a little bit modernized. 13 passing touchdowns on top of that. That's really good for a Navy quarterback.
Why I like Horvath as a G5 quarterback above the others. In general, the academies don't have a lot of turnover, Matt.
True.
They have a lot of young men who stay with the program for 3 or 4 years. Now, they do have change at quarterback, and obviously some quarterbacks are better than others. And Navy had gone through a hot streak where their triple option quarterbacks were amazing. But they did tweak it. I mean, the part that's amazing, he threw the ball 139 times. Matt, there used to be years where the Navy quarterback would throw the ball like 50 times. So they almost tripled the number of pass attempts. And he was very efficient with it, Matt. 13 touchdowns, like you mentioned, 9.7 yards per attempt. And if you watch Navy, and I watch a lot of American football, if you don't know, the American Athletic Conference is now officially the American Conference. I watch a lot of the American Conference, and what you see on tape is they scheme it so well. Horvath is throwing to wide open running backs and receivers 15, 20 yards. It's just based on scheme. I see no reason not to embrace the risk of a running quarterback at Navy. I love Blake Horvath.
John, did you see the Eagle mascot? I think he looks so weird, man.
I did see. That's why it was popped in my head. I just saw it the other day. Yes, that's why it popped in my head.
The eagle with legs. I don't know. I can't do it.
Does any other conference have a mascot?
No, I think he's the first one.
Okay, that's what I was like. I don't ever remember the Big Ten SEC don't have mascots.
Yeah, that was a weird one. And all I could think of looking at the picture, they had a picture where he's, a football eagle and a basketball eagle, and he's wearing the same shoes in both, and that really annoyed me. I can't tell you. So, we've talked about the top 4 guys. So I don't think, John, we necessarily need to. I think our listeners and our viewers know these are the top 4 guys: Cade Klubnik, Arch Manning, Lenora Sellers, Avery Johnson. I'm curious to finish up this episode, John, sticking with our theme of league winners, right? You can draft league winners in the first round, the 5th round, the 10th round, the 20th round. That's what we're all about. When you're looking at who are you drafting, who are you getting the most personal exposure to this offseason out of these 4 guys? I could tell you off the bat, I'm getting a lot of Arch Manning that seems to be who I'm getting the most with. I'm not going into my draft saying I need to get Arch Manning, but in best balls, in the best ball mania, I keep getting him at the end of the first into the turn of the second. And I've just like Cade Klubnik goes quick. Sellers goes quick. For some reason, Manning seems to be lagging behind a little bit. And, I just think for me, it's take the cheapest option.
I agree with you. Take the cheapest option. Probably the one I have most, just because my draft spot has been Cade Klubnik. Now,
Yeah.
I have been lucky enough. I do have Arch Manning. I wanted to get Arch Manning, so I've got him. I feel pretty good. But I'll tell you who I got a lot of, Matt. It's Avery Johnson.
Nice.
And this, I don't know, many people probably didn't listen, but we did an FSGA prop bets draft. Guess who I took for my Heisman winner at plus 4,000?
Avery Johnson. Nice.
Now they have to go 11 wins, and he's going to have to rush for over 1,000 yards probably to do that. But with those odds,
plus 4,000.
Yeah. Hey, 2 years ago when I took Jaden Daniels, no one thought I was going to win the prop bets. And when I took last year, I took Travis Hunter. People were laughing. So, I mean, I just think Avery Johnson he has the profile. We now know that the Heisman voters are all in on the dual threat quarterbacks or on the narrative. Hunter was a narrative, both sides of the football. Jaden Daniels and so many others are these dual threat quarterbacks. If Avery Johnson wins the Big 12 at Kansas State, Matt, and somehow they go like 11-1 and he gets over 1,200 yards rushing and like 25 touchdowns, they are going to love that. And I think Kansas State's loaded and the Big 12 is wide open. If you told me TCU, Baylor, Kansas State, and Texas Tech, any of those four could win the conference. So
absolutely.
I took my shot. I love Avery Johnson.
I like it. I like it a lot, John. Again, our full rankings, full 75 quarterbacks, as well as another 75 running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, 250 total college fantasy football players ranked. We do also have in our rankings sorted by Power 4 only, everybody together. All of that's available for just $5 at patreon.com/rookiebigboard. The link will be in the episode description, and that does give you access to Devy, Dynasty, Rookie, the scouting reports that I talked about, Discord access. I got to tell you, John, super cool this offseason. The college fantasy football side of our Discord blowing up. So a ton of interest in that. If you're into college fantasy football, you're watching this video, this is the community that you're going to want to be a part of. The link will be in the episode description. You have questions, comments, thoughts about any player we've talked about, you know how to do it. Just drop the comment. Let us know. We'll give you our thoughts on them. And John, you're going to want to make sure you are subscribed because we're going to be back real soon with some more college fantasy football content.